Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Despite Atlanta FaZe somehow reverse sweeping Los Angeles Guerrillas last night to take them down Game 5 Round 11 and secure their spot in the winner's bracket for the major, they've still not been the dominant FaZe that we maybe expected to see at some point so far this season. And the OpTic guys have given their thoughts on this, Scump criticising some of their search and destroy plays, and Karma suggesting that the SMG duo is just straight up not the same since slide cancelling has gone. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. First of all, this is an absolute shambles if this actually happens, but Charlie Intel tweeted this out last night, suggesting that the museum map that was in the game right at the start during the beta, that was, I don't know, I don't think it was great, it was maybe playable for search, but it was kind of massive, I don't know. Anyway, they removed this map, and there were rumours that they were going to remove Hotel as well, because again, they just copied and pasted this from a real life location. I know that some, I think it was JHB actually went to the museum to show that he was there in person, so it was removed, copyright issues, all that type of stuff. Rumours emerging now that they're going to bring it back again, as Hunter says. Imagine this gets added into Season 2 as new content, right? Because they say, oh, here we go, guys, brand new maps, and they're just bringing back one that was meant to be in the game at the start, but they had to remove due to copyright stuff, and Charlie Intel seemed to imply that's what's happening. So out of all the maps they could possibly add, apparently we're getting Castle back from World at War again for some reason. I guess just because they could easily copy it over because they made it last year for Vanguard's different development team, but whatever. And then they might bring back Museum as well. So look, I don't know if any of these are going to be viable for anything, but please give us something else, because yeah, Fortress Control's got to go. It'd be nice to have another Harpoon and Search map in there as well. Like back in, I mean look, back in Cold War, we had Express, we had Standoff, we had Apocalypse, it was a good map. Like we had a lot of new content over the course of just a few months, and yeah, this year it's not looking so pretty. Also wanted to say this in Puckett, like, do you guys think this is a bit strange? I don't know, I just saw this tweet and I thought it was a bit interesting, right? The Puckett, as the host of the league, is coming out giving his specific thoughts on certain team environments. Maybe there's nothing wrong with this, right? And obviously the analysts on the desk are free to give their thoughts, but I just thought as a host it's a little bit interesting that Puckett's saying, you know, London needs to double his salary, talk about, you know, he's got to get poached if Ravens finish bottom 4, and I don't exactly disagree, to be honest, right? And even Asim, I thought it was funny as well that Asim replied to this, suggesting that, gotta continue being me, so grateful for all the love, in a tweet that says, you know, someone should just save him from the Ravens, basically. So clearly Asim will be having similar ideas that, like, get me off this team. I don't know what London are going to do. I think there's some good options out there, but you can trust London to not choose any of them. And also just wanted to mention on Gunless quickly, and we'll have this same discussion here with Simp in a second, whether we're ever going to get this version of Gunless again. He was such a dominant force when he first came onto the scene back in Infinite Warfare. This is, of course, during Black Ops 4, when he had some crazy numbers. It's certainly at that, it was the Fort Worth event, where Luminosity Gaming won at the time. But Gunless has not really been the same the last couple of years. He had that illness last year, now he's in Challenges, and hasn't looked particularly impressive in Challenges. I think he was teaming with Ghosty, decided to move on, and move in a different direction from Ghosty. Now Ghosty looks really good, and might get in the league. So, I mean, yeah, so it's kind of, if Gunless doesn't get back in the league, it'll be kind of sad to see how that went for him. But, you know, there's also other players that have had dominant seasons in the past that aren't necessarily doing so good nowadays, and we'll discuss that with FaZe here in a second. Just wanted to say with OpTic quickly, because as they say last night, what's good Rambo Ray, who I'm guessing is still the GM. I mean, his bio still says GM. I think last night on stream they mentioned, you know, he's going to do content stuff, and I'm guessing he's still kind of doing some general manager responsibilities there. At least we'll be in those conversations if decisions need to be made down the line, but not, of course, in the day-to-day coaching. And Dashy says, checkmate. Now, I think this might have been something that happened on stream and was irrelevant, but I just thought it was a little bit interesting that Rambo gets officially booted off the team as their coach, and then a couple of hours later, Dashy tweets checkmate out. And we know that, you know, Rambo likes to play chess and this type of stuff as well, so I don't think that this is Dashy just taking the mick out of Rambo and saying, oh, checkmate, I win type thing, or like, it was probably something else entirely, but I thought it was quite interesting timing, and people in the replies certainly seem to agree with that, but there was probably something happening with Envoy here that aligns with a slightly different turn of events. Let's talk about FaZe then, right? So last night, crazy series, Game 5 Round 11, a 4-0 comeback, 5-2 comeback Game 5. Like, they were looked down and out after map 1 and 2. aBeZy then just went absolutely out of control Game 3 and Game 4 to get them back in the Game 5. They complete the reverse sweep, and as Arcitys says here, you know, screw you guys for taking me down. Obviously, Arcitys had a pretty rough mapper, 4 as well. I think he went 6 in 19 or something. aBeZy's GG's, man. So still all love to a degree, but obviously this was the first time these guys were matching up again, and FaZe do get the better of Los Angeles Guerrillas, but not in an easy manner at all. I think if it was the LAG of the start of this season, FaZe would have smoked them, but this new LAG is looking rather good. Even as Arcitys says, after the Mercado, all I could think about was formal, still saying, you know, 7 all this, even though it was actually only 6, I think he got. At least I come up with a 1v3 next map, but still went down regardless. The question is to me, yes, Cellium is like, okay, he's still going positive in losses. Last night would have been very interesting had they have lost the series, because Cellium, like, look, I think he was playing a lot faster yesterday, Cellium, actually. He had a 1.55 in the series. If they'd have lost, there'd have been a lot of talk about that. And FaZe is still sitting in an okay position, right? They're 3-1. They're now guaranteed their passage through to the winners bracket of the major. The seeding is not yet confirmed, though, until the end of this weekend. This is as it currently stands. Ravens now 1-4, guaranteed losers. But FaZe are only, I mean, look at the other teams that are 3-1. 11-5 map count, 10-4 map count. FaZe a 9-7 map count. Like, they are just squeaking out wins in game 5 to somehow be 3-1. So it's far from a dominant performance from FaZe. They're somehow still winning these series. But it seems like they're almost on the edge of having a pretty rough showing at a major, right? Because there's so many series where you feel like they should lose or, you know, could potentially lose. And if they were to lose 1 or 2 of those in a major, then they're in a really tough spot. So not sure what the future holds for this FaZe team. But yeah, to me, it's been their SMG line that hasn't been so impressive. I mean, look, you guys remember back in Cold War or even Black Ops 4, for example, on eUnited, and Modern Warfare is a similar example. Simp and aBeZy would just completely diff the other SMG duo. Like, you know, obviously aCD and JoeDeceives are pretty good, and they did drop 0.8 in these series, but in fairness, map 3 and map 4 were complete blowouts, so it kind of skews the stats, I think, in FaZe's favor here, despite it going to a game 5, round 11. But a few years ago, aBeZy and Simp, like, if you put an SMG duo like Hicksy and JoeDeceives, good players, but Simp and aBeZy would wipe the floor with them. There was no SMG duo in the world during Cold War that would come anywhere close to Simp and aBeZy. They would just completely bowl over the SMG duo of the other team, series after series, and now it's not really happening. Now, aBeZy is still, like, playing incredibly well, and we know during Vanguard, he didn't like the game, got frustrated after winning the World Championship in Cold War, knew that going into this year, he needed to turn up a gear again. I think aBeZy has done. He's had some takeover maps. Cellium might have the best KD on this team and is playing very well, but, you know, aBeZy, I think, is the most impactful player on this team, and therefore, I would argue the best player on this team right now, kind of hands down, in my opinion, to be honest. Especially in Search and Destroy, aBeZy's been by far their best player. Now, Simp has had his moments, right? And I was thinking back to Vanguard, like, during Cold War, I can remember many, like, Simp highlights. A few highlights on Raids, some on Garrison, there was some on Checkmate that Simp had as well. Like, he was just different gravy that year. But last year in Vanguard, can you guys remember, like, a single Simp highlights play? Like, I can't really. And this is the only one that I remembered this time so far this year, right? Simp on this 16 streak he had on Hotel Control. And when you watch Simp like this, he's just so good. I can't understand. Like, when you watch Simp's point of view, he's shooting straight, he's making great decisions, it seems like. But then you look at the scoreboard, and he's usually, like, you know, drawing a 0.9 KD or something, which just isn't the Simp we know. So that's why I'm a bit confused at where this has come from for Simp, especially because aBeZy is a bit inconsistent, but still having his takeover moments. Not really there for Simp right now. And the OpTic guys were commenting on this last night, and Scump actually gave his thoughts on the decision-making they made in Search and Destroy. They made up for it a bit in Game 5, but I do think that Scump makes a good point here in Game 2. And even Karma saying straight up that since slide cancelling has gone, Simp and aBeZy aren't the same.
Like Randy Couture.
Randy.
Wow, look at this map control. I just want to, just quick, like, FaZe just completely gave up the A-bomb plant, which I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, I don't think that ever goes well.
Like, look at them. They have 25 seconds, and they have to flush them out of all of these. And no, they're all on their side of the map. Like, what are they supposed to do? Like, even if they kill him, look at this. They have to run into choke points now. Yeah, like, what are you going to do? They got crossfires all over the place.
Uh-oh, it's Simp.
No.
Yes, it is.
Well, yeah, but the round's over.
Yeah. No, I was just saying that it's Simp shooting.
I don't know about that.
Looking nasty.
That's who. Let's not take any credit. You're right.
Now falls into the hands of JoeDeceives, who find himself on a 4-speed, gets that information, and aBeZy already crosses towards bedroom. So now it's time to iron up, play a
FaZe
little
with
bit
no
slower.
slide
Look at the
cancel,
play that's trying to
man.
go
They
on
might
the
have to
late
start
flank.
sliding
Hicksy
like
trying to
Dave
make
Patty.
Oh, excuse me.
Slasher finally gets on the board
Yeah,
here.
Slasher on the
Able to
board.
shut him down. We talked about experience. And that's where it pays off.
And it was Crimsix, right, making this point during the Cold War season, saying that Simp and aBeZy are slide cancel merchants. They've only come up since really the Black Ops 4 days when slide cancelling was a thing. Now, aBeZy was, I thought, very good as well in World War II before he actually really became known as a player. And aBeZy's great this year again. So, yeah, the movement's changed a little bit. It has affected some of the play from a Search and Destroy. It has affected some of the play from an SMG perspective, but aBeZy, like, is still having his takeover moments. We don't really get that from Simp this year, okay? We have that one moment, that 16 kill streak, which is crazy, but outside of that, like, where is the Simp that we know? And even Bo said this on the watch party last night. He was like, where is Simp that we know? And I don't know if it's the kind of the relationship they currently have between their ARs and their SMGs, the fact that, okay, Cellium played pretty fast in that series yesterday, but Slash is a slower player, Cellium's a slower player, like, there doesn't seem to be a good intermediary there. aBeZy's obviously going to be rapid and is great at what he does, but, you know, there's an argument to say that Simp is doing a lot of the dirty work for this team at the moment, taking the routes, putting himself in difficult positions. I mean, in hardpoint, he has the most hill time on his team, which isn't really the way that things arguably should be done or are usually done, when usually you've got one of your ARs soaking the most time, but FaZe have a different approach, but their hardpoint this season hasn't been good. 12 in 12 in hardpoints, Simp has a 0.95, aBeZy has a 0.96. aBeZy's been killing it in the search and destroy, a 1.35, that's just absolutely outrageous, and Cellium, Simp, and Slash are all kind of there on that game. They're 13 in 7 in search. It's very good in search and destroy. Control, they're 8 in 6. Not the same control they used to have, for example, back in Cold War. So, yeah, I don't really know the answer to this question right now. What exactly has happened to Simp? Because I still think the same player that he was is there. Maybe the game just doesn't suit him quite as well nowadays. I don't think the team dynamic is quite set up in the same way to allow Simp to go off as he used to do back in the day. And maybe they feel like the way that FaZe are currently approaching their respawns is the way to, you know, maximize their success, but doesn't really seem like that to me. I mean, Simp's still young. I can't imagine that he fell off or anything as an individual talent. Given that he's made 4 consecutive grand finals since joining the league at the World Championship is absolutely outrageous, and has been in the best player in the game conversation practically every single year. Last year, he wasn't really there in Vanguard, but towards the end of last year, started to get in the discussion of at least close to one of the better SMGs. But, I mean, yeah, every single other year since he joined, he was out of control. For example, these are his stats in Cold War, where he was pretty much undeniably the MVP. Okay, some people said aBeZy. I would have said Simp at the time. I mean, look at these numbers. A 1.17 overall, 1.25 in control, 1.13 in hardpoint. Like, I mean, his numbers over the season that year were just ridiculous. And we just don't have this same Simp playing nowadays. Whether it's the slide cancel thing, whether it's like the team play thing that FaZe are going for, I don't know. At the end of the day, they're still in the winners bracket. They're still winning series. They've still got a good chance to win this major. But Simp and aBeZy certainly aren't as consistent as they used to be. And really, it's only aBeZy right now that's having those crazy takeover games that we used to get from both of these guys. So definitely intrigued your thoughts on that in the comment section below. Let's talk about the matches then tonight. Firstly, from Los Angeles Thieves, they've confirmed that Kenny will be back in business this weekend and also the Major 2. So that's a positive sign. Hopefully things will go well for him. And also a key point of discussion for tonight's first match is Scrappy versus JoeDeceives. They were going off on each other just a few weeks ago, really. Scrappy, a lot of amateur players don't think JoeDeceives should have got a spot in the league because they think he's just some ranked play kid and wasn't ever very good, should have given other people a chance. Turns out he's actually rather good. And Scrappy was like, this guy's terrible, shouldn't have got a spot. JoeDeceives was then clapping back at Scrappy the other day. I think we showed those clips at the time. And they play each other tonight, can you believe it? So here we go, the first series of the day, Los Angeles Guerrillas versus Ultra. I do think that Ultra, you know, I think they're just slightly better in all the game modes. LA Guerrillas search is a little bit suspect, as is their control. So I think on the balance, I've got to say Toronto. I think this honestly might be like a 60-40 series, though. I think there's a very good chance Guerrillas take this, but I've got to slightly lean Toronto until proven otherwise that Guerrillas can actually ice up against one of the top teams. Then Vegas versus OpTic. Like, I can't imagine a world in which Vegas' mental isn't just completely chalked right now. OpTic will just wipe the floor with them, I'd imagine, at the very least. I'm going to have to say a 3-0, unfortunately. And then we've got Boston versus Florida. Again, this has a 2-3-5 possibility because Boston in Game 5 are very suspect, but I think I'm going to take Boston 3-1 again. I'm just not convinced in Mutiny's respawn. And then Surge Subliners, man. It doesn't get easier for Surge, does it? With the games they're playing lately. We haven't seen them play in quite some time, but they weren't good last weekend either. So, yeah, I reckon Subliners 3-1. So I'm going to take Ultra, OpTic, Boston, and New York. And that's going to do it for today. So very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.